backstory on marketing and AI. And of course, if you haven't already done so, please visit prorelevant.com and sign up for all of these episodes and podcasts. And as you know, I am the author of the upcoming book, The AI Marketing Machine. And you can find out more information on that at marketingmachine.prorelevant.com. So today I'm interviewing Italo Leva of Petal. And so let me tell you a little bit more about him. He is a RevOps architect and founder and CEO of Petal. And Petal is a platinum HubSpot partner helping high growth companies scale revenue across every stage of growth. He works with businesses ranging from 10 million to 100 million plus, helping them to move beyond founder led sales and build repeatable, channel specific revenue engines. Welcome, Italo. Italo, it's so good to have you. And revenue is so critical for marketers, and definitely looking forward to hearing your perspectives.
Yeah, nice to meet you, and thanks for having me. Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. I would say that this is my first rodeo. This is probably my I think this is the maybe third or yeah, it was second company I've owned, but this is maybe one of four or five businesses I've owned. And they weren't all agencies, and I didn't do marketing before, right? This is kind of something I fell into down the road after decades of experience, or after like over a decade. And I fell into it because I was trying to figure out how to solve the hardest problems. Like, how do I solve the hardest problems of being an entrepreneur, being a startup? And I realized that it all kind of comes down to revenue. If you have good revenue and profit, right? Like, obviously, you can have all the revenue in the world without profit. Doesn't work out, but goal number one is get the revenue. Goal number two is like, how much profit can I squeeze from this, right? And so, in chronological order, that's kind of how I landed here, and started agency to help other people figure it out too. After I got it maybe three or four times, like, okay, this is a repeatable, teachable process. So now here we are.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and teachable now and programmable and automatable with AI, and it's hard to believe how easy it is. I've been amazed at some of the things that I've been able to do, and it gives you everything. It gives you the answers. But before we get into that, so tell us a little bit more about what your backstory is. How did you really get involved in AI and marketing, and of course, sales generation? That's the critical piece.
Sure, sure. But I definitely want to get into more of that, 'cause I'd love to hear what you're doing, because it's always interesting to hear people are super clever about finding pockets and finding niches of value. Yeah. So my background is I started a company when I was in college. I invented color-coded guitar strings, and so I did it for guitar, and I was playing in a band at the time. My background was in healthcare, so I worked at a doctor's office my whole life. You'll hear more about that later. And it was always an entrepreneur. Like, was always throwing parties, was always doing things for kind of cash on the side. And my whole life, so I was 10, probably 12. But when I was in college, I gigged in a band, so I'd play on the weekends. The band was much older than me. I think I was like 17, 18, 19, 20. Too young to be in a bar, but my band was all 25 and up, and like, so I would have to go play in bars on the weekends. I loved it, and also money. I was kind of a side hustle. And then I had a doctor's office job during the day, and I had school. I was a double major. So not a lot of free time, and I was trying to figure out how can I learn songs faster to go gig on the weekends with my friends, because that was fun, and and we get free drinks. And I was underage, and it was cool, and so we could get paid more, and I could get free drinks. Why not? And so I kind of hacked it. I was in a bio class, and so I was in grad level psychology, and then as an undergrad, then I was also a bio and psychology major, and so human biology was my background. I was pre-med, and so I realized the memory works a certain way. I always had questions like about neurology, how things actually work. Like, what is a memory physically in the real world? Like, what is it? What does it look like biologically? What does it look like chemically? And so I kind of understood that and started learning over the years with my courses, and figured out that you can train your memory and you can do things to help you learn faster. And one of those things was, using multiple senses. And there's like a big case of, savants and people have synesthesia, where they can learn they can learn faster than someone else because they associate more colors. A lot of synesthetes will have grapheme, where, every letter is a color, and they can memorize like pi to the 2000th, interval, right? Or digit. And then, integral. Or you have people who play music like Jimi Hendrix's and John Mayer's of the world, who are slightly savanty, and they can see colors when they hear a sound. They have perfect pitch. They know exactly what note that is because they can, see colors when they hear it, or they just have perfect pitch in hearing. So the more senses, the better the memory. And then you have chunking, all these different things you can do to improve memory processes. So I did color-coded guitar strings, so you could like kind of chunk together notes and scales and sets, so you can learn how to play something faster. And then wrote a software that colors sheet music, so you kind of match it like Guitar Hero. So I built that in college. Then the rest is history, man. Had a cool ride of that. Company ended up failing because it was a lot of money. Like guitar strings are only worth like 5, $6. And to paint them like that at that scale would make them $20, $30 a pair. And it wasn't something people were going to buy. So learned that the hard way and business failed. Went back into healthcare and then I started using what I learned. So when I invented that product, I won my university entrepreneurship competition and they funded me. So I won a ton of grant money, like 50 grand. And then the first time I won it twice actually, but won 50 grand or so. It was like 5, 10 grand each prize. I swept gold, I won everything. And so I won a bunch of different grants. And then I got funded, went to Boston and competed in this Mass Challenge, which is a big incubator, like a Techstars of its day or a Y Combinator of its day. And it was an MIT competition that was put out there. So a lot of MIT, Harvard guys. Got a lot of really cool coaching there. Like when you get there and you make it to the finals, you get to live in Boston for a year among all these really cool entrepreneurs. Most at really good schools like Tufts and Harvard and MIT, and you get coached by professors, venture capitalists like Google Ventures was there, BlackRock was there, like a lot of great, like Anderson Horowitz was there, like all the great VCs were there, and then I sponsored the competition. HubSpot actually sponsored my office while I was there as well. And then because they're in Boston. And then we got coached by these really cool .com guys like JeffTaylor.com or Jeff Taylor from Monster.com, Steve Case of AOL, Bill Warner, the guy who made Pro Tools, which is like Avid Tech. That's how people like make beats and for beat software. And so a lot of really cool coaches lived there for a year, got that education, came back home and started, after the company failed, started working in healthcare again and kind of using what I learned there to use technology and automation to help streamline medical practices. So, because I was in healthcare my whole life, nobody else really knew how to do that. I was in billing, and healthcare has something called revenue cycle management. So it's like getting money from insurance companies. And so that would be what would start my revenue journey by using what I learned in Boston from software and coding and automation and business processes and taking it down to healthcare, which nobody had really done in North Carolina at the time, and using it to automate and track metrics for businesses and generate more revenue or track revenue. And then once you kind of figured out what the secret sauces were, automating things to grow more revenue. And so that's kind of how it started. And then it grew into full digital marketing for practices. I eventually ran dozens of practices and helped companies or practices grow their locations and like drop ads for them to bring in new patients. And then same thing with COVID testing sites when COVID happened. I did those. And so that was that. And then I kind of transitioned that to helping businesses sell B2B as well, because we use it for ourselves to get more clients for our billing firm. So we go try to get new dollars for clients. So it automate email, it automate ads, all the above things, LinkedIn messaging. And that was kind of the rest
Yeah.
of it. I did that a few times,
Wow.
had a system.
I love your story on the guitar strings because I've been kind of a musician. When I grew up, I was playing saxophone, and then after college, I kind of got out of it, and now I'm in a chorus, and so singing and whatever. But every notes are always black and white,
Mhm.
and and I'm just thinking here is why don't they make them in colors? So that, to your point, you have multiple dimensions so that you could either memorize them better or be able to read them better.
Yeah.
And that is just absolutely fascinating. And
Yeah.
what would be interesting too is, I tried to learn piano. So saxophone, you play one note at a time, and it's nice and easy. You don't have to read like, three or four or five different notes at a time for all your fingers. And I tried to learn piano and it was so hard.
It
But
is.
I could see where you could, tie one of your fingers to a color.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you could probably, be able to do that a lot better. Wow, what a great story.
I have to add in 2 cents here. So there is a piano thing that does that. And so when I went to go look up the patent, because like I got a patent at like 1920, but as you I don't know if you know, it takes like a lot of time to get a patent. It takes years to
Hmm.
get a Everybody always wondering like, how to get a patent in 1920 or at 19, 20 years old. Because I invented it and got a patent like later that year. So when I looked it up and looked at the patents and looked up the systems and how this exists anywhere else, I found David Kestenbaum from Color Keys, where he had done this and patented it for piano, but not for strings. And so David Kestenbaum was a guy in Canada. I'm pretty sure it was Canada. Yeah, I think it was Canada. Really cool. Was willing to work with me. Like, hey, we can partner on this thing and kind of have like a whole color program. Like, love it. My colors that I had thought through and invented were different than his colors. Obviously, I had like G is green, B is blue. Made sense to me. He was like, G is pink or something. I don't know why, but cool. And maybe French Canadian. I don't know. Maybe French. It's a different word on a or a different letter. But really great guy. Was willing to help me and work with me on that. And then I found a guy named Rodney Shelton. And this is a really cool story. Rodney Shelton is, and I should give this story a lot more credit than I do, or than I did when I was young. I was kind of just running and gunning. But Rodney Shelton was a guy who had invented this for bass guitar, but the patent did not span all string instruments. So I was like, okay, well, cool. Like I was a guitar player, not a bass player. I was like, cool, no worries. Let's kind of partner on this thing. Let's get this going. I want violin, I want cello, I want everything. Again, me as a business person, this is where my head was. And also I'd use it for myself. Like I did this for myself when I was playing guitar at these shows to help me. I knew it worked. And then because I was in college, I had access to a music professor who happened to also be my entrepreneurship professor to do research on this to prove that it really does work with a PhD study behind it. So I'd gone through all this effort and found that this guy had a probation. He was like, let's partner. I fly down to Nashville, Tennessee. Of all places, he's in Music City, Nashville, Tennessee. And I'm in North Carolina. You're in Atlanta. So you know how close it is and how easy it is to get to. I was
Yep.
like,
Yep.
this is serendipitous. So serendipitous. Went down there. Roddy Shelton's a cool dude. I grew up in a pretty like hip community of like hip hop and jazz music and just really really great music taste. Like I'm also a big like Adele fan, and Winehouse. I'm a big musician, right? I'm a big guitar player as well. Rodney Shelton's like that too. At the time, I think he was probably 40s. I'm maybe 19, 20. He's mid 40s, maybe early 50s at the time. And cool black dude from Tennessee, just can slap a bass like nobody's business. He's awesome. And we met, and I told him my story, and he was like, "Hey man, you know what? I don't have time to do this. I've been trying to get this going for 3 or 4 years. I'm gonna pass it the time." And he gave it to me.
Yep.
He gave it to me on a handshake deal. And I tried
Wow.
my raise money, tried to get it to work, and it didn't work out. And then I gave it back to him. Like, hey, I tried my best.
Yeah. Wow. How cool is that? But I mean, just to be able to do that at 19 and 20 years old is just incredible. All right. So now you're what? You're 21. Now you're at Pedal. So tell us a little bit about Pedal and then a little bit about what the hell is RevOps?
Yeah. So no, pedal would happen much later. I did this for doctor's offices and from 20s all the way until 28, 29. And then I started doing it for software companies, which I kind of always did on the side, but I went kind of full time in software companies because I had a passion for tech and healthcare. And I decided that I wanted to work remotely. And so tech was the way to go to do that moving forward. And so revenue operations is so pedal kind of came out of me consulting on the side while I had a doctor's office stuff and really loving it and really helping. Like also want to be cutting edge. Like I want to stay cutting edge. And consulting is a way for you to learn for free or to get paid to learn what other people are doing that are really exciting in business. So, I get to meet all these cool software and AI companies and hear their really smart founders tell me about their strategies. And we get to collaborate on that. And I get to always get educated. I get paid to get educated. I have my RevOps thing. I can teach you that. And you teach me your things that you're doing. And it's kind of a really cool exchange. And that's why I love consulting. As a hobby, more even over a business, I would have done it for, either way. I kind of always did do it before I had an agency. The agency kind of grew out of me really wanting to scale it and automate a lot more things and not just do it all myself all the time. I have a team. And so, but revenue operations is something that came out in the last 5 or 6 years, where before there's marketing, there's sales success. So revenue operations really is specific to two things. Recurring revenue is one of them. And then the other thing is like a specific model of how to grow revenue. And so when you ask most people revenue operations, they say it's aligning your revenue team. So your marketing team brings in leads or brand awareness, sales team closes them, and then your success team or service team keeps customers happy. And so that's what most people say it is. It's in aligning those teams, which it is. But there's also a more scientific approach to this. So when you have recurring revenue, like a Netflix or your light bill, for example, you can't scam people. When the internet first started, there's a lot of scams. People would sell you something, you never hear from them again. And that works out if you do that at volume, but that's not repeatable. So if you're the founder of a business, you have to kind of do that forever. You have to keep scamming people forever. But I'm not the kind of person who wants to do that. I'd like to set up a business where it has its own processes and it's generational wealth, and I can step away from it and it runs itself. How do you do that? Right. And so you have to keep customers happy long term. And so the way to do that is to have these processes that build feedback loops. So it's like Six Sigma engineering, like 1% better every day kind of thing. Iterative feedback loop, hypothesize, test, deploy, and then review it and take the learnings and do a new hypothesis. So every week you kind of get better. And so the goal of this being to keep clients long term, how to keep clients for 4 or 5 years. And so you have to be really happy to stay that long, right? You have to really sell them the right thing. And so revenue operations is a scientific approach to spinning that flywheel. So getting that flywheel going and making it go faster. And it's called the bow tie model. So there's a model of data and statistics, like kind of like MBA level math of how to get more clients in the door and test if they're the right kind. Grow those clients, keep them long term. Will they renew or not? Will they expand and upsell and cross sell with you? What percentage liking is? So it's like a scientific model approach to this, to the problem, and it breaks down every stage and how you can do that.
Yeah. Wow. Wow, fantastic. And I like, that is the challenge of a business is to get that flywheel going.
Mhm.
It's easy as a founder to many times to just sell stuff to your friends
Yeah.
and but it's not repeatable. And how do
Yeah.
you get that flywheel going? And that is just so critical. And now, so you're a big one of your big partners is HubSpot.
Yep.
So tell us about, the AI, AI powered revenue engine and how does Pedal fit in there?
Oh yeah, I'm glad you asked. Yeah, so I love HubSpot. They sponsored my first startup office, as I told you, and that company failed. I've had a great relationship with them for a long time, and they started as an email tool, but over time they became a CRM. And for me, just as a person who's done business since I was a child, the customer is the biggest part of the experience, right? Like the hierarchy goes customer, company, team, you at the bottom, right? And so customer relationship management tool is ideally what you need to understand, like, where your revenue is coming from, because it all depends on how happy they are, right? And then also you have the right ones. And so uh, we use HubSpot to do everything from ICPs, personas, like, is this your right customer? What is your right customer? Do you have data to prove that these are truly your right customers? How much are they spending with you each month, each year? How do you get that up? And then what are the touch points? Like, what creates the customer? What creates a deal? Creates a meeting? How many calls, emails creates a customer? So your unit economic level of like actual production time, and then sales scripts. What sales scripts did you use? Which one did better than other ones? How can we improve upon it? What part of it was the best? And I have AI that says their interest in their face, they smiled more at this part of the script. This is a better part of the script, right? Like, so
Mhm.
we use a customer relationship management tool to extract all the data from the relationship between your company and your customer. Or if you're doing B2B, then your customer's whole company. So it might be the three people on your team that interact with the 10 people on their team. And AI for us will come in and sit in HubSpot. And this is kind of go with the AI engine, right? So HubSpot is a CRM tool everybody can use, and you kind of track data from your customer setup, right? Where we step in and make a difference is, as Pedal, is one, we build out for your full flywheel with the goal of how can the founder step away, right? And we do it by putting AI every step to pull in the data and analyze it to understand what's working, what's not working, and really iterate on that fast, like every week. And then when you find what works, automate it so you can move on to the next part of the process, right? And you start with the beginning, chronologically, and go all the way down to the end. And that's the AI revenue engine. And so a couple of things that it does is it listens to calls and tells you sentiment at different parts, right? Are they happy, not happy? HubSpot already tracks, form submissions and inbound stuff, so you know how they get there. And then from there, it'll update the records for you. So if I'm on a call with you and I'm saying, hey, like, what CRM do you use? You're like, I use HubSpot. I'm like, great. The AI engine will put that into the record for me, and save it as a property, right? And after I ask all the questions I have to ask on the discovery call, it'll update the records. Once those records are updated, it'll then create the quote. The quote then gets sent out to you, and then you can review the quote and you can sign it and pay it. Once you do that, it'll schedule the kickoff call. Kickoff call, you hop on that because we're services. So kickoff call,
Mhm.
if you want to let growth, you just check up online, you just do that yourself. But all the systems are kind of fall in cascading order as it's supposed to do. So that way, the whole point of this is that the sales team can do more selling and less updating the records, so they can maximize their time. And then also, when the founder does it the first time around, if I'm doing it for the first time ever, it track and tell me what's working and what's not working, so I know what to fix, and then it's documented for the next team to go do. So that's kind of the AI revenue engine. The first part of it is listen to all your calls and make sure that your records kind of update, streamline, and then all the outreaches that take in between for nurtures to get them in there. And there's AI that also, like, there's the call recording AI, and that is also an agent that updates your record. There's also a AI part we partner with Synapsa, and it's like an email agent where any form submission, any website, like web chat bot, or any incoming or outbound email, it has those conversations for you, and you can train it on materials based off every form submission, every touch point. Like, I'm doing a webinar this week, and so the webinar is on these three topics: how to, build reports in HubSpot. And then so anybody who fills out that form, that joins the webinar or downloads a white paper about how to do forms or reports in HubSpot, that bot is trained on that information. And so we'll start to nurture that lead and help get them to a meeting or to a sale without me having to do that. It'll just follow up with them. So those are the kind of two things it does: is call recording, sentiment, update records, and then also do your outreaches for you.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that's awesome. So, what are some of the red flags that you run into in some of these go-to-market strategies?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that people don't take the time to do the research. Like, a lot of people don't know what their, like, real ideal customer is, and so you spend a lot of time reaching out to the wrong type of customers, right? And it's always better to go deep than to go wide, right? As a rule of thumb in life at anything. If you're a specialist of something, like we're really specialized in HubSpot revenue operations, we have to charge a high premium because there's not a lot of people who can do that.
Hmm.
Well, if you're a digital marketer for anybody, then there's a lot of people that can
Yeah.
claim that get commoditized. So it's better for the, our clients to go deep and find like, hey, we've served these two kinds of customers. It's very specific. We want to go deep and help them solve really big, deep problems than to do a lot of service problems for a lot of people. Spread the team thin. That's the biggest thing at the very beginning of that. And then I think that just a lot of people, there's a lack of education. If you're a publicly traded company, you're and there's different industries too, but like let's take our favorites are B2B SaaS, B2B services, because there's recurring revenue. And it compounds, like compounding interest. You have compounding exponential revenue on the right side of the funnel if you keep people for years. So that's our favorite type because it gains the most revenue. And so if you have something like a publicly traded company, a private equity funded company, or someone trying to exit to a private equity firm, or you have a VC funding company that is in this space, because they're so sophisticated from SaaS, Silicon Valley, they understand what metrics are important to your business. The average business founder does not, right? They understand a couple of things like win rate, how many
Mm.
calls do I win or close? That's cool, but like there's a lot of metrics that come into play when you're trying to get investment or you're trying to exit a company. And most people are oblivious to what 90% of them are and don't know what they mean or how to measure them. And so there's usually a big learning curve in that. And so that's one of the things that I want to try to conquer over the next year or two is creating content to help people like me or people like I used to be understand like, hey, these are the frameworks and numbers you need to be trying to improve to really get your business where you want it to go. When these things are missing, this is why there's the kind of foundation bottom falls out under you when you try to do the next step every time. So I think that's the two biggest things is who are you really selling to and how are you helping them? And then like, what is the real game plan step by step to get me there? And every business model is a little different, but if you have B2B SaaS, B2B services, we got you. There's really a step-by-step playbook that have been done a million times. This is why Elon, these guys can do
Mm.
it 37 times in a row. It's the same.
Yeah, but one thing, especially when you're like a new company, a new startup, and I don't know, maybe you don't deal with startups, but when you're a startup, you only have two or three companies, and unfortunately, they were probably your friends or business acquaintances, people that you know really well. How do you take that and then develop, your ICP, your ideal customer profile? How do you go from those two steps to where, and I liken it to, winning one customer, 10, 100, 1,000. And
Smart,
so how do you go to, from one or two to 10 and then to 100?
smart. That's actually a great question, man. So I'm really glad you asked. So one of the things that I do so I love startups, by the way. So we don't work with a lot these days, not because we don't like to. It's just that we don't find as many as we used to. Because it's just the markets that we're in, but we still do and we still would. But so startups are like kind of like my passion because I've had several and I've failed some, so I had to learn lessons the hard way. I think that there's a good framework for this called the lean startup, right? And so the lean startup is where you have you start with a problem to solution fit. If you're going to start a business, it's because you know how to do something someone else doesn't, or you know how to do something that you think is better than someone else can, right? And so, hey, I know how to solve this problem, like in a really cool way. Like I see it solved every day this way. I don't know why people weren't thinking about solving it this way. Because when I do it this way, people love it, and I loved it. So let me try to solve it this way for the market. And so you have problem solution fit, and so you start with that, and then you do that as a service. You can then go have service to solution fit. Before you spend any money building an app, I see a ton of people waste money and try to start raising money for this idea that's not proven, and then they raise a ton of money and lose a bunch of money. Don't do that. Do it as a service. Like whatever you're trying to solve for people, go do it for people as a service and go get your first 10 customers and interview them. And hey, you're who I think my target customer is. Can I interview 10, 20 people and ask you some questions? And one of those questions, the last of those questions should be, how much would you pay to get this fixed for you? Right. And they'll tell you how much they think it's worth. Right. And then after that, you say, okay, cool. Hire me to do it then. Right. If you have this problem, hire me to solve it. And you'll notice pretty quickly, maybe one out of the 10 or one out of the 20 will actually pay you to fix it. That is your real ideal customer profile.
Yeah.
Because the rest of them will say, yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, $1,000, no problem. Cool. Here's here's the invoice. And well, actually, you know what? And that tells you that one, it's either not a big problem to solve, or it's not a big problem for them to solve. Like they're not your right customer.
Yeah.
They're usually the people who have tried to solve it on their own and have tried to hack together solutions. Like, oh man, I tried it. I got a Zapier and I did this and I did this. And I hired this one guy and I had to fire him. He sucked. And I still can't figure it out. That's the guy. Those are the ones, right? And
Mm.
so you do it as a service for them. You then do it for 5 or 10 of them. And you get to charge them to do it and you get to charge them to learn. Like, hey, whatever you're paying, I'll do it for half. I'm trying to figure it out too. Cool. And you go do it for those people. And then now you have a service and now you have the right customers and you kind of figure out how many what have in common, what they tried to do to solve it, where they looked, and you put yourself in those places. Hey, you guys all check Facebook Marketplace for that? Cool, I'm gonna put myself on Facebook Marketplace for that. Right. And now you get more of those. And so that's how you start with problem to solution, service to solution. And once you've done it enough times to perfect that service, hey, I've done this 40 times now, right? Then you make a product and you make an
Mhm.
MVP product. Like you don't make an expensive, beautiful build, you make the very minimal product you possibly can and say, like, hey, it's automated, it works a little janky. So I do some updates to it, but like boom, here it is. And then so now that's your product to market fit. And you have an MVP. And then you try to scale from there and see how many customers can you manage month to month with that MVP until it starts to break on you. And then you kind of take all that money you've made and put it back in the product. And then you have this feedback loop of iterating the product. So you do
Yep.
it, customer
Yep.
uses it, they tell you if they like it or they hate it, and you take the feedback, make the product better. And then you give it to the customer, they pay you money, take their money, make the product better. Now you have this flywheel every week, right? And that's how you kind of scale from there. And usually when you get to $1 million of recurring annual revenue, it's not one-time buyers, but hopefully recurring. Like if you have MRR, AR, if you have MRR, hopefully you have, 100 grand a month or 80 grand a month. Once you get to $1 million a year, at that point, you have figured out product packaging and pricing. So that is, how much could I sell it for? And you want to sell it enough where it kind of hurts. So, because then they're going to be more bought in. If it's nothing and they only pay $5 for it and they think about it, they'll probably also never use it. It just kind of sits there
Mm.
happy. But if it kind of hurts a little bit, but it solves the problem, they still get the ROI, but it's like a little uncomfortable, they're going to be more invested in the product. And you can give me feedback, making sure it works for a company because like it's a little uncomfortable, right? Buying a CRM for $200 and never using it, it never gets updated is one example versus buying HubSpot for $1,500. And it's like, gosh, I got to make sure I got to get the ROI of this thing. I'm paying $15 a month for it. I spend a lot more than that, right? So like, I make sure I get the ROI every month out of it because otherwise it's a loss. And so that's how you want to do it. And then at $1 million, you kind of figure out what that level, like what is the max you can charge for it. Maybe you tier it, beginner, pro, enterprise,
Yep.
and how to package it. Like what words you say online to get ads. So you can bring more people. Like you've heard enough times, the problems of times, you have the phrase enough times, enough sales pitches enough times. You can now stop doing one-to-one and do one-to-many. I know what to say to get people in this audience. And so, because I know what to say for this audience, I can now scale it and put it in an ad, and the ads now sell for me. And I don't have to, they just sign up on the website. Now I've done one-to-many. So every time I do an effort, I get 20 customers instead of every time I have to spend an hour on a demo call every time. So that's how you scale from there. And again, automation, AI, automation every step of the way.
Yeah. Yeah. So we talked a little bit in the tease about where you see AI going and how it's going to help revenue operations and marketing. Let's talk a little bit more about that. So what you've done is you're building these AI agents and then you're hooking them together. So kind of one agent feeds the next, feeds the next, feeds the next. Tell us a little bit more about that.
We're doing this all on HubSpot. Some things we do that are off the shelf. Some things that we do are custom made. Some things that we do are like partners of ours. I like the Snaps situation. They're really great. Email and like they're a really good agent that kind of just does conversation, right? Whether it's chatbot or email or any webinar. It's really awesome. And so, but yeah, so I think that what's happening currently is that there's, people are doing agents for one task for one call, like scrape LinkedIn. That's what's been happening the past year. Now, right now, what's happening is they're now having a team of agents, but they're not necessarily speaking together perfectly. This is called the MPC. So, like, kind of you have APIs where APIs connect apps together. You now have agent protocol. And so these agents can speak together, right? And so, but again, right now, it's still kind of like one at a time, and it's always in the same chronological order. Hey, like here's the lead comes in the door. Agent one does LinkedIn research. Agent two does web research. And he passes off with what he has when it's done. So he has more information. So the person at the end of the line has most information to work with because he's got all the research before him. But I think is going to happen next is that things are not going to be so linear or static. Things are going to be more three-dimensional and dynamic. And so what I mean by that is if I have agent number one does LinkedIn research and finds out that that person is, a donor at a university. I'm going to say UNC this time because I'm trying to start out my North Carolina people. UNC, right? If he does research, say this guy's a big donor at UNC, instead of going to next scrape his company's website, maybe he then thinks to scrape, UNC's website, or maybe he seeks to scrape reach out to press about UNC, or do something else that is an action that makes more sense based off of what he learned in that first activity. So it's not always sequential of okay, next is do the web. It's like a human. Hey, now that you have done this research, what do you think? is the best next step, and which other agents do you have on the team to help you go do that, as you would
Mm.
delegate in the real world, right? And so that's like your team of agents. Right now, the team of agents is like a linear sequence you build, like a workflow or a sequence, but it's a sequence, I guess you call it. But now you're going to have more of a delegation type style of team management. So now you don't just have agents for team members, you have agent managers or delegators, right? And so that is like the next level or iteration, I think, of, online digital and like company management and business management for AI tools. There's lots of AI, I think, like in the real world, like self-driving trucks and cars. I have a trucking business as well. We do carrier freight logistics. So I have 18 wheelers, and right now we have people driving them, but now they're coming out with things where you can modify the engine and add like a AI driver, how you have a Tesla. So there's all kinds of stuff like that happening. But I think in this space, that's going to be what's happening for the knowledge workers of people like us. And then so that's like the one side of, the agent team. But I also think that the internet is going to have a shift here soon where right now websites are dynamic. I'm sorry, websites are static the same way. Like if I go to a website, it might update whenever it updates, but it's not real time, right? They update it whenever someone has time to go through and update it, which is a big task and a lot of work. But what if a website, instead of like Wikipedia, like if Wikipedia was not just a bunch of text, it was a knowledge base, right? And as that knowledge base got updated in real time from the web and from and AI and X and Facebook, it just updated itself because it has these functions that know how to do that and gather knowledge, right? Because it now has a team that can do that for it. Wikipedia wouldn't be a static page where I go to Wikipedia and say like, "Hey, Wikipedia, here's the page of so and so," and it's locked in time. Um, if I go to look at the Wikipedia page of Justin Bieber, he's still alive today. So as I'm reading that page, much like when you ask ChatGPT a prompt, it will just kind of keep populating at the bottom as he does things. It's now
Mm.
dynamic. It kind of keeps going because it's still happening, right? It's kind of still pulling knowledge. It keeps going. So I can kind of see like the history of kind of like a timeline would. Now you have the other dimension where it's more, three-dimensional, I guess. Or, yeah, more, not two-dimensional. It used to be more three-dimensional.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you've added the time dimension to it. Yeah, that's pretty good. Well, I wish we could keep on going. You're giving me so many good ideas, and you've got so much energy, and it's just fascinating. But one of the challenges, especially in marketing, and especially with AI coming into marketing, is the challenges for new up and coming marketers. Any advice you would give somebody that's trying to get into marketing?
Yeah, yeah, a ton. A ton. So I think so marketing is awesome. I always kind of go from the sense of revenue first. There's plenty of marketers out there specifically for marketing. Like there's plenty of you guys who get kind of down for doing vanity metrics. So instead of focusing on, like number of clicks, number of visits, that's one metric. The bigger picture is always revenue. Like, can you grow the business, make money, qualified leads? So focus on those things first, with everything you do. And the way to do that is to learn how to start a business. So read Lean Startup and learn how to sell. There's plenty of things out there on how to sell. I think if you know how to sell, you understand biopsychology, then marketing is really easy, second nature. Maybe go that way first instead of starting just at marketing. I always say, because if you know how to make a customer happy, sales is pretty easy.
Yeah. 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 How true. How true. Yeah. And I like your point about, learning how to sell first, because once you do that, selling, you have direct access to the customer, and then you can see what their environment is. You can understand what their challenges are. And then you can understand behind that, well, if that's the case and I want to sell to 1,000 of those, then marketing, I can maybe do my marketing, a whole lot better.
Think about this. If you do like sales is one to one, marketing is one to many, and you want to get there. We all want to get there. But think about this. If I can't, manage, like I have a truck company. If I can't manage one truck, should I be in charge of managing 1,000 at once?
Right. Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, of course, if they're going all in different directions and getting lost.
Yes.
Yeah, very good.
Food for thought.
So, yeah, Italo, thank you so much. This has been really awesome. How can folks reach you and to learn more about you and your company?
Yeah, yeah. So website is peddling.io, P as in Paul, EDDLING.io. There's a contact form on there. Reach out to us anytime. You can book a meeting with me there if you need help with anything. We have a revenue roadmap we give to people. So if you need help growing your revenue and you want some like actual practical steps on how to, what to automate, what to do, and like where your weaknesses are and what will increase your revenue 20-30% each year, reach out to us there. Also have LinkedIn, Italo Leva, and everything else is all my other social medias are the Italo Leva.
Fantastic. Well, that's fantastic. So it was pedaling.com.
.io.
Pedaling.io. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. And for the audience, definitely stay tuned for many other videos in this series on the backstory of AI and marketing. And if you'd like to find out more information on my upcoming book at marketingmachine.prorelevant.com. Italo, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This has been great.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.
Absolutely. Thank you.